Travis got a call one morning from a friend of his, Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg. Mark told him that all his employees at Facebook were going crazy over a new app called LYFT. Now, it's actually still debated to this day whether Lyft copied Uber or Uber copied Lyft. Because even though Uber started first, remember when they first began, they were a luxury black cab service. It wasn't until 2012, the year Lyft launched, when Uber became a more affordable service that let anyone drive for them. Suddenly, these two ride-sharing apps offering the same service were going head-to-head. And most people who know Travis well have commented one thing. In any form of competition, he seeks nothing less than utter domination. Travis believed there could only be one winner, and he would stop at nothing to make sure he was on the winning side. So he wasn't afraid to play dirty. For example, one of Lyft's most effective marketing techniques was to hold driver events, small parties with food and games to try and get local communities interested in driving for Lyft. But Uber would frequently crash these parties and hand out promotion codes where drivers could get free money if they joined Uber instead of Lyft. They basically hijacked the parties Lyft was paying for and recruited people to join Uber instead. Another promotion technique Lyft used was giving out giant pink mustaches that drivers could put on the front of their cars. A fun and simple gesture designed to make Lyft more recognizable. In response, Uber put up billboards everywhere Lyft was operating, urging people to shave the stash and come use Uber instead. Uber also created a vast amount of fake accounts on Lyft so they could track the locations of Lyft drivers and feed all of this data into another secret software they created called Hell. The reason for the name is because Uber also had a system called Heaven, which was a God view map of all Uber drivers active on their system. But Hell was the opposite, a God view map of Lyft drivers. The reason for this was that then Uber could figure out which drivers were using both Uber and Lyft. Uber would then offer those drivers extra rides and cash bonuses, so they always took jobs with Uber instead of Lyft. The goal was to get these drivers to stop using Lyft completely, because Uber seemingly paid them more money, when really, Uber were deliberately paying them higher than their other drivers to lure them away from a competitor. Once they stopped using Lyft, the bonuses would end. And Uber didn't stop there. For any drivers who were exclusively using Lyft and not Uber, they would order a ride on the Lyft app from a location near that particular driver. And when the driver showed up, an Uber employee would try and recruit them to join Uber instead. It's even reported that sometimes Uber employees would use burner phones and order lots of Lyft rides all at once, and then cancel the rides at the last second. In later years, when the public found out how Uber had been sabotaging Lyft and stealing their drivers, they faced a lot of backlash. But Travis and Uber didn't think they'd done anything wrong. They believed business was a competition, and you had to do whatever it takes to win. Not just that, but it seemed Travis enjoyed the fight. He would even troll Lyft's founder on Twitter. However, perhaps one of the biggest reasons Uber did so well compared to Lyft was that Travis would find out whenever Lyft had investor meetings to raise money. And then he would immediately call those investors straight afterwards to tell them that Uber would be raising money very soon as well. Investors knew Uber was the bigger company, and since they couldn't invest in two rivals, investors often backed out of any deals with Lyft to invest in Uber instead. It also helped that Travis was a natural showman. He had a real talent for dazzling investors and getting them hyped about how huge Uber was going to be. He'd tell them that one day, Uber wouldn't just transport people, but transport every good you can think of, and deliver anything to anywhere, and thus could be a serious rival to Amazon. He'd get investors excited about his vision, but then, after the meeting, he wouldn't reply to them for a little while, to make it seem like he didn't really need the money, which just made the investors even more eager to invest. It wasn't long before Uber was getting some huge investments from venture capital funds, including a staggering $258 million from Google Ventures. And of course, more investors meant Uber had more money to spend on expansion and marketing, so they were always going to have an advantage over competitors by having a bigger budget. Here's just a few examples of some of the publicity stunts Uber pulled to get more attention.
Look, Valentine's Day, we distributed tens of thousands of roses to thousands of drivers. Every girl who got in a car after 4 p.m. was handed a rose by the driver. In President's Day, in D.C., we did what we call an Ubercade, okay? Escalade, town car, Escalade, American flags all the way down. 1 out of every 20 people that push the button, an Ubercade rolls up.
But hold up. hit the brakes. Whilst Uber's publicity stunts might seem like all fun and games, let's be clear. The story of Uber has a much darker side. So far, we've seen Uber be unethical in their efforts to beat Lyft, and we've seen Uber break the law to outwit local authorities. But believe me, things are about to get even more controversial.